Good evening. Welcome to the City of Lowell Conservation Commission for March 23rd, 2011. I'd like to remind you, if you have a cell phone or a pager, kindly turn it off or to vibrate. And getting underway, under order of business, we have a notice of intent from Naomi Pendergrast and the Sisters of Charity, Ottawa. Project location is 981 Varnum Avenue, and it's construction of a maintenance building in the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands.
Good evening, John Noonan with Noonan and McDowell.
Hi, I'm Matt Kittner from Duville.
Matt's the facilities director, and I'm the design engineer. Tonight before you is a proposed construction of a facility maintenance building. It's located to the rear of their existing facility. If you're familiar with the complex, as you drive in on the right-hand side, when you get to the end and you start to make a left-hand turn, it's right on your right. There's an existing parking area there and 2 garages located within that parking area. What it is that we're proposing to do is within the lawn space to the west of it and a little to the rear of the existing parking is to construct a facilities building so they can use for maintaining items within the campus and on the campus. The existing pavement right now is within 16 feet of the BVW that's located to the east on the adjoining property. We're proposing to cut that back close to the existing shed so that we can provide a continuous 25-foot area separation from the BVW. So we're going to move the existing pavement area back. At the same time, the roof water from this building will help to reduce the amount of surface area that's draining to this direction by about 220 or so square feet of impervious surfaces. By placing the building and collecting our roof water, there'll be less impervious surface flowing in that direction. So that will help reduce some of the potential pollutant loading in that location. The building itself will have downspouts with gutters. It'd be collected into a leaching structure that's located in the existing lawn that's to the rear behind it. And also there'll be an outside storage area that can only be accessed through the building to the rear. The proposed design does not increase stormwater discharge runoff rates. They would basically be the same as they are now for existing conditions. All the activity is located within pavement and existing yard spaces. And we are proposing to install down gradient erosion control devices to make sure there is nothing that can get or flow to the resource area. And I think that pretty much summarizes what's proposed. There we go. Back one.
Do you, are you showing your erosion control on that map?
Yes, I am. It's highlighted in red.
Okay, it's, which plan of the ones that you've supplied to us are those details shown on?
Yeah, it should be.
We have topographic, site, cover sheet, and detail.
Correct, and the detail of the erosion control is on the detail sheet, bottom left corner.
Okay, but on the plan itself, it's...
Oh, it's right here.
Okay.
It's on the edge of the green line.
Can you explain the structure of the infiltration field and and is it a detention basin, retention basin, or just an infiltrator?
It's an infiltrator. You won't even know it's there from the surface. It's going to look all like yard space.
It's subsurface?
Subsurface. It's Cultec chambers with crushed stone beneath it and around them and beside them. And it's all covered with the fabric on the sides, the top, and then loomed and seated above it.
What sort of maintenance is required on that?
there shouldn't be any, there's inspection ports that are shown in the design so they can inspect it, but the structure that precedes it from the roof also has a sump and has T's. So even if leaf matter were to get into the downspouts or something, it would get trapped in that structure before you get to it. So the only thing that's shown in the operation and maintenance plan is to inspect the structure and to maintain it. And that's included in the operation and maintenance plan that was submitted, and it's part of the overall campus.
Okay, and that's only servicing the downspouts from the building?
That's correct.
Okay, it's not picking up any runoff from catch basins in the parking or the paved areas?
No, it's not.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Chalupka?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Varnum?
The plans here are very complete, and Duville has done a lot of upgrades and expansion in recent years, and they're just an asset to the neighborhood. I haven't seen any way that they've impacted the bordering vegetated wetland in their previous expansion plans.
Commissioner Moore?
No questions.
Commissioner Mellon?
I've reviewed your package, and it's pretty comprehensive, so I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lynch?
No questions.
Thank you.
That seemed easy enough. All right, this is here for filing for an NOI. Just give me a second. We're not dealing with any floodplain issues out here, are we?
No, we're not. No,
Okay.
we're located above the 100-year
It's just the
floodplain.
BVW?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns, either for or against this project? Again, is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns, either for or against this project? Okay, Chair notes that there's no one here to speak other than the applicants and proponents. All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Do I have a motion? This seems like a fairly straightforward project, and I apologize from the prior meeting, but I mean, this is the type of project, even though it's a fairly straightforward manner, you know, the act is fairly clear about operations and work in a buffer zone, especially in this, you know, close proximity, that it needs to be conditioned and completed pursuant to an order, so.
No, we understand that.
Okay, all right. So do I have a motion for a Lowell standard order?
Move to issue a Lowell standard order on this project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? I'm not going to poll any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Good luck. Just as a side question, just when do you anticipate having most of your work done out there? I've noticed that from last year to just a couple of weeks ago, you've really got the construction crews out there now, and well, overall in the whole site. I mean, I have to agree with Commissioner Varnum's comments that Duville has been a pretty terrific neighbor for the folks in that neighborhood.
Thank
It's
you.
a beautiful campus, so.
Thank you.
It would be nice to see it at some point return to its prior serenity and peacefulness, so.
Yeah, we, you know, the current project, you know, that's going on right now is scheduled to be completed at the end of this year. We kind of get held up at the state level with Department of Public Health issues. So that's been resolved, and we're underway now finally. So we will have that whole area back in order. And I'm not going to say by the end of this year, because we know how construction goes. I'll say by spring of next year, things should be all in line. As far as the project we're talking about now, it's really a 3-month project. I anticipate it to be done by probably, you know, July sometime this year.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much. I
Forward to
appreciate
it.
you. Thanks.
Moving on, a request for determination of applicability, Richard Harvey from Harvey Signs. This is a University of Mass Lowell request, and it's a project location is 459 Father Morissette Boulevard, and it's excavation for a sign foundation and a 100-foot buffer to an inland bank in the Lowell Canal system. Sir, if I could kindly have you identify yourself for the record?
Yes, my name's Rick Harvey. I'm from Harvey Signs. I'm representing UMass Lowell to install a sign foundation, as you said, on the bank of the canal at 459 Morissette, an easement there. I don't know what questions you might have. Do you have a drawing of the?
If you, just give us a second, and if you could just explain a couple things, what the work entails, where precisely you're going to be working, and what sort of activities and disturbances that creates.
Well, we're going to be working on from the street side with the backhoe, reaching over the guardrail to dig a hole that's going to be approximately 42 by 42 by 5 foot deep. I mean, a small hole. And that'll be pretty close to the guardrail. That's all depending on what's in there, but we're trying to keep it up towards the guardrail and away from the fence and the canal wall. We'll be setting up a silt fence for erosion control from pretty much the bridge abutment all the way around to the other side of the hole for the erosion control. And then we'll be pouring concrete in the foundation and bolts in there, and then installing the sign there afterwards.
All right, now when you say the bridge abutment, you mean the Aiken Street Bridge?
Yes, yes.
That crosses from Father Morissette Boulevard over the northern canal?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. That was recommended by my excavator.
You're right near that intersection?
Yes.
Okay. And from your details, you're indicating 42 inches by 42 inches?
Yes, approximately, yes.
Okay, and what's happening to the fill that you're removing?
That's going to be taken to Brock's. Whatever's left, whatever's left is going to be taken to Brock's over in, I think it's Drake or Methuen.
Okay, will that be taken as it's excavated?
Some of it will stay on that particular one, everything will be coming out of there.
Okay, so it'll be removed by an excavator and immediately placed into a truck?
Yes.
Okay, I wouldn't want to see that being, because there's just no room. I mean, the only place to stockpile it would be right at the canal
Right.
wall, and
Right.
that's not something that I'd want to see happen.
Yeah, there's not going to be, on that particular one, there's not going to be, we have to build a slight form on the back side of that because there's a 12-degree slope there. So it's going to be a form on the canal side to bring that up to the proper height.
Now, the sign is just a university sign?
Yes,
The
it's the
directional
typical
sign?
ones you see around here. They're about 3 feet by 3 feet by 18 feet tall. I have a drawing of that if you need to see
There's a
one.
detail on the package.
Yes.
Thank you. What sort of siltation
That's a
barrier are you proposing?
It's a typical silt fence of hay bales and the silt fence itself, the mesh designed by the excavator. He knows more about this than me, but from what I see here, he's going to be digging a hole for a trench to put the mesh in. That'll go down, and then the hay bale goes in front of that.
Now, are you going to be able to, your easement isn't very large, are you going to be able to go off your easement in order to install the siltation fence?
That I do not know. If I have to keep it within, we'll keep it within. I mean, that's something I don't know. Main concern is to keep the erosion control at this point. The easement itself,
Appears to be about 12 feet by 12 feet approximately.
excuse me. Well, we can keep it within that, and I probably will at this point. Come up and around that.
How long do you anticipate between breaking ground and pouring concrete and having a
Same.
finished surface?
Same day.
Same day?
Yeah, same day. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Proposing that there's not any problems, but yeah, same day is what we're trying to do.
All right. Will there be any reseeding required?
I don't believe we'll be disturbing anything around there, but if we do, we'll reseed anything on the edge of that foundation.
All right, no
We're
further,
putting a direct burial in, so whatever we take out is being filled with concrete.
Commissioner Chulka,
No questions.
Commissioner Varnum?
Have you done any test pits in that 12 by 12 area to see what the soil consists of?
No. We won't know that until we start excavation to see what's in there.
So you don't know if any stones from the canal wall, for instance, might extend into your easement?
No, I do not know that. Again, as we excavate, if there is an issue, that'll have to be brought up, or either we have to stop, or we'll have to make a change order on what needs to be done there. We definitely don't want to disturb the wall, for sure, because we don't want the canal to get damaged, for one. I don't want that responsibility. So if there's anything in there that's going to be in the way, we're experienced enough to know that we don't continue and unless we get some sort of change order. If it involves you people, then we'll be back here again for that, or we'll move the sign someplace else. So,
Let me ask you something. I'm sorry. How close is the canal side of the structure of your foundation or footing to the inside of the canal wall? Not the water side, but the land side.
right, the inside of that wall. We're assuming that the wall, if they're built typically, may slope down towards, and we don't know that for sure on this particular wall, but he's worked on other canal walls before, some come sloping towards in, which would be pretty close. So that's going to be about 5 to 6 feet from that, depending on if you're going straight out elevation or you're going down at your slope. It'll be about 6 feet from there. It's a 12-foot buffer there, not a buffer, but it's a 12-foot between the guardrail down to the fence itself.
And you're going to be closer to the sidewalk?
We're going as close to sidewalk as we can, because the further we go down, the lower the sign gets, the more we get towards the wall, whole bunch of problems.
All right. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Moore?
When are you planning to do the work?
As soon as we can. They wanted it done in December.
Commissioner Mellon?
No questions.
Commissioner Lynch?
No questions.
Is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or thoughts regarding this request for determination of applicability? All right, Chair notes that there's no one here to speak. This is here, well, it's on a public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, second?
Second?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Okay. This here on a request for determination of applicability, fairly straightforward. It's, I think we could easily issue a -3 and condition it with siltation. With siltation barrier and in a no closer than part. I know that you're planning to be as close as you can to the sidewalk, but, and also a condition that there's to be no stockpiling of removed materials from the hole. But do I have a motion on this?
I'll move to issue a -3 determination on this project with the condition that silt fence be installed prior to the start of work, that no excavated materials be stockpiled at the site. And I would like to see the commission notified should there be, at the time, rather than waiting for them to come back for a meeting, notify the commission should you encounter any difficulty with digging at that particular site due to location of the canal wall or perhaps the presence of ledge that would require you to use a different method of digging that hole rather than just the shovel.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you can contact Craig, and he'll provide you with the appropriate documentation.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on, this is, next is an enforcement order, Ed Walsh. Project location is 119 Maple Street, and it was issued in concurrence with an order of conditions 2060667 for work originally performed without a permit, and this was prior to the order of conditions having been issued. Craig, if you could fill us in on this.
Yes, if the commission remembers, this is for the work at Maple Street. There was extensive tree clearing in a buffer zone to an inland bank to the pond out there. We had worked with the applicant, Mr. Walsh, excuse me, and his representative, Steve Erickson from Norse Environmental, to delineate the former wetland boundary on the site, which proved somewhat problematic, and to issue an order of conditions for the work. Now, the feedback that I had received through communication with Mass DEP and informally through discussions here at the city was to issue an enforcement order accompanying the order of conditions, as none was issued originally. We had brought them in for informal meetings, but we had not, in fact, issued an original enforcement order for the work. And that acts as an additional incentive to perform the work as permitted under the order of conditions.
All right, thank you. So this enforcement order issued after we had voted on the order of conditions, and that had gone out to the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have, since then, and that was the last meeting or 2 meetings ago that we had voted on that?
I believe it was the last meeting on the 9th.
All right. Is there anything new covered in the enforcement order that is not contemplated by the order of conditions?
Well, yes and no. The no answer is that the enforcement order really is based on the order of conditions to say you must follow this, in particular the restoration plan. Part of the enforcement order has a section about restoration plans will be filed and will serve a certain purpose. The yes answer also is that through enforcement, if there is any issue, it allows us to more easily get the DEP involved should they choose to take action. They're always eligible to issue a superseding order if they disagree with the order or the project as permitted through an order of conditions, or if they believe a violation has occurred that they would like to step in and regulate or permit themselves. They also have that ability, but the enforcement order is a further way to communicate the permit that we have issued to them to obviate any concerns regarding how the how the restoration will occur going forward.
I'm assuming the applicant has received this?
Yes, and I had discussed this issuing the concurrent enforcement order with the representative Steve Erickson prior to the meeting in which the order of conditions was issued, and he indicated that there was no problem with that.
Okay, thank you. By way of understanding, I suppose, we as a commission have, pursuant to the order of conditions that is issued, we have an ongoing right to regulate the continued work, and we have an expectation that the applicant and landowner will proceed in accordance with the order of conditions, regardless of whether this enforcement order had issued or not. It's my understanding also that we could issue a subsequent enforcement order, assuming we felt that work wasn't proceeding at the pace that we were told it was going to proceed, or work was being done outside the order as it exists now. Likewise, not only could we issue an enforcement order, but we can proceed on as a violation of the existing order of conditions. I suppose I'm a little, I understand that the applicant, through their engineer, they have no objection to this, or they just accepting it as a matter of course. I guess I'm just trying to understand.
Yes, again, the information that I was given from the DEP indicates that it's a somewhat common practice for after-the-fact filings to issue a concurrent enforcement order with an order of conditions. I know that this has not always been done with this commission, but again, you're correct also that were the order of conditions to be issued, and as that order was issued with very tight timelines, if at any point along the way the commission, through information that we received, determined that the order had been breached in some way, then enforcement is also an option at that point.
Are there any questions of, I mean, this is an order that you had issued in, concurrently with the order of conditions having gone out, so it's not something that the commission has acted upon yet. I'm going to open it up for questions of Mr. Thomas, if there are any, or just open questions for discussion amongst the commission. Commissioner Chalupka?
No questions.
Commissioner Varnum?
Will we be lifting this order when the restoration plan is completed, or how does this run?
Well, if I may, I suppose two-part. One, we can discuss, or we should discuss, whether or not, or how, assuming we ratify this, what the implications are. But I think primarily whether or not we even ratify it at this point in time. You're right, this commission doesn't issue enforcement orders in concurrence with an order of conditions, and we're generally, I suppose, I hope not naively, but we expect our applicants and landowners to pursue their endeavors towards development of their projects in accordance with any order of conditions that they receive from this commission. I, for one, don't feel the necessity of issuing an enforcement order now, in concurrence with an order of conditions. Now, I know that this particular project did not get before us in the usual manner, and because of that, there was probably the need for this enforcement order, albeit it was issued in concurrence with the order of conditions, but so I suppose we should be discussing two things. One, whether or not we want to ratify the enforcement order, and two, then if we do, what are its implications, and what happens to it afterward? And do we even have to act on it once, assuming we ratify it, what happens to it? I mean, I'm assuming these things aren't open-ended.
This is something that I've discussed with the DEP in regard to the other enforcement orders I issued for the snow placement in the brook on several parcels, as we discussed at the last meeting. The closeout process for an enforcement order is, it doesn't have a process like a certificate of compliance, at which it's formally closed. It's more a process of, if it's issued correctly, it's ratified, and if the commission feels that the intent of, the reason for enforcement has either been discontinued or abated or restored, then it's simply not acted upon. It doesn't have a useful life in that it goes away, but it also isn't something that can be used any more forcefully than other actions at some point down the road. For example, that's somewhat of a convoluted answer, so let me try and give a better answer. The issuance of an enforcement order is a way to put the commission and the DEP on the same page as far as potential punitive action for a violation. The ratification of that is a statement that you agree with the concept that a violation occurred. But again, there is no vote to then say, okay, that has been corrected. By closing out the order of conditions and by tying this to an order of conditions, that's how it is essentially closed out, to say, okay, that this was tied to a permit, or a project as permitted with an order of conditions, and that permit has been accepted through a certificate of compliance. For other enforcement orders, it's a little bit less clear when they end, but again, it's another formal step the commission uses along with, say, fines to encourage compliance.
Does this in any way, by ratifying the enforcement order, does this in any way affect the order of conditions that has issued? Does it supersede it? Does it diminish its effectiveness? Does it change any appeals times? Does it change any effectiveness of the order with respect to the applicant being able to go forward, with respect to our commission being able to modify it or amend it or accept amendments or modifications?
Nope, the enforcement order generally refers to the permit as issued. If we choose to amend the order of conditions at some point, that's a different process, and again, that can be done concurrently with, excuse me, let me say that differently. Any changes to the order of conditions as issued will not affect the enforcement order. Again, I view the enforcement order...
How about, let me interrupt you for a second.
Okay.
I'm not concerned as much with the enforcement order, because we can issue an enforcement order at any time, assuming we have a valid reason to do so. It's the order of conditions that has to go through the public hearing process and is, a time-involved process, both for the commission and the applicants. In that regard, assuming we ratify this enforcement order tonight, does that in any way impact on the order of conditions that has already issued? That's I suppose, what, I don't see, I suppose what I'm not getting is, I don't see the need at this point in time to issue an enforcement order to ratify it. Perhaps we just keep it in the file, just leave it open-ended. Do we have a time limit as to when we need to ratify this? I think on enforcement orders, they have to be ratified at the next full hearing of the commission, correct?
Yes.
Right, which would be tonight.
Yes.
Then I'll go back to my question then. What, if any, effect does our ratification of this enforcement order have on our ability to interact with the applicant, the property, and the order of conditions?
Again, it should have no impact whatsoever on the order of conditions as issued. I tend to think about them as parallel tracks. On one track is the permitting authority of the commission, through which we accept applications, issue determinations of applicability, orders of condition, and then can modify them per the standard order. There's certain modifications allowed without an amendment, particularly for erosion controls to be installed in certain ways, or even an amended process. This is more on the I don't like the phrase punitive, but I guess that's sort of the enforcement of the actual protections for the resource areas. And again, it's really about coordination and coordination with the DEP on that. Yes, both items also go through the DEP permits as well, but this is a different type of notification for them to let them know that a violation has occurred and that the order of conditions is not a general order of conditions, but is specific to correcting a violation.
All right, so this is then, it's not something that's issued as a matter of course, it's just doing some general house cleaning and issuing one perhaps when one should have been issued in advance of the order of conditions having been issued?
Yes, for this particular project, enforcement would have been preferable before the order of conditions, and then the order of conditions could reference the enforceable situation. But because of the timeline for this, it just didn't come together before that. The materials that were brought to bear for the order of conditions came at a time that made it more important to have the order issued and some sort of oversight of the project created than to also let them know that this is an enforcement this is a violation, and that as an after-the-fact filing, this is a part of the process that happens.
All right, I'm sorry, Commissioner Varnum, any further discussion?
Well, this site was a major violation of the act, and since the owner is aware and the DEP is aware, and we do have a special situation here, I would think that this would be one case where we'd put this enforcement order alongside the order of conditions and hope for improvement in the situation out there, so that the restoration plan is carried out properly and in good, timely manner.
Commissioner Moore?
I agree with Commissioner Varnum. I think considering what's gone on out there, and that from the time we first interacted, things continued to go downhill. There was continued work on the site that wasn't positive. I think the parallel track route is a good one.
Commissioner Mellon?
What's the status of the restoration?
So the restoration plan as permitted, so the restoration plan was submitted with the notice of intent and referenced in the order of conditions, thus that becomes a part of their permit. That was one of the items that had some of the timelines made more concrete at the last meeting. They were discussing getting started, I believe, in late spring, something on the order of April to May. I can review that and get more information to you, but I know we put in some clauses that were weather dependent and had communication built into the commission. I remember distinctly by June, unless there were drought conditions, they would have plantings in place. And then by September, if there were drought conditions, then that is when they'd pick back up after some site work and have plantings in place to have it functioning as well as it could for the first growing season by the fall of this year of 2011, and by 2012 to go back, review where the planting stood, if there was any die-off to replant to bring it up to the 75% establishment that serves as the benchmark for a functioning wetland system.
Okay, so that the applicant is going to notify us 2 weeks in advance, I believe?
Yeah, there was a considerable amount of notification built into our order of conditions. The standard order is 1 page, and this one actually had a second full page of special conditions associated with it.
No further questions.
Commissioner Lynch?
I don't have any questions. I just agree with what everybody's said so far tonight, and that I think it is a good idea to have them on the parallel tracks, as said.
All right, no further questions. Do I have this is an enforcement order that was issued by our administrator, so we need to either ratify it or not ratify it, so we need a motion either one way or another.
I'll make a motion to ratify this enforcement order.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? I'd like to say, I'm going to request a poll on this. I was under the mistaken, I guess, belief that this project, prior to the notice of intent being filed and the order of conditions issuing, I thought that there already was an enforcement order on this project. Apparently, that was not the case, but I, for one, you're probably catching the tenor of this from some of my questions. I just don't see the need for it anymore. So it's, just keep that in mind. I feel that an enforcement order, and I agree with everyone here, I feel that an enforcement order was at one point in time necessary for this, but I think now that we have a valid order of conditions, that, at least as far as I'm concerned, the enforcement order is not needed. But I'm gonna poll for votes. Commissioner Chalupka? This is for, the motion as seconded is to ratify the enforcement order. So a yea vote is for the issuance or ratification and issuance of the enforcement order, and a nay vote is obviously not. Commissioner Chalupka?
Aye.
Commissioner Varnum?
Aye.
Chair votes no. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon, I'm sorry. Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The ayes have it, 5-6 to 1. So. Moving on, if, Craig, if you could bring us up to date on what's happening at 50 Phoenix Avenue. This is concerning DEP file number 206-0607. And this is under other business.
Sorry, give me one moment. I'm having computer difficulties. All right, I apologize for that. This is a project that was originally permitted in early 2007, came back for an extension in early 2010 before I started administering the commission, and that came in for an informal hearing, I believe in November, either November or December, to discuss the construction sequencing for the project in regards to the filling versus the replication for the wetland area. This project has been ongoing. It has, due to significant abutter concerns, has gone through a fairly rigorous review, both by myself and by the Mass DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. Through some concerns that the incorrect permits were originally issued, the project underwent a full re-review around the time of the informal meeting, both by Mass DEP and by the Army Corps of Engineers, both who, while not voicing support for the project, did not issue anything that basically said that the order of conditions as issued by this commission would stand as their permit. Originally, DEP, when they received word of the potential for permits that had not been applied for nor received, put a stop work order to the project. I worked with DEP to try and determine how they wish to act, and again facilitated the full reapplication by K&M Land Consultants of all materials to DEP. The issue at that time was a 401 water quality certification, and they determined that one was not the determination was officially that the order of conditions would serve as the 401 water quality certification, which is the way of saying they don't need to issue a separate permit at that, time. This is done again for smaller projects that don't meet the standards required for an independent 401 water quality permit. Since that time, there have been other objections raised to the project, and I've tried to work through them as best I can. The city manager, the city councilors, I believe most of development services and all of the planning and development at this point is probably aware of this project and the issues that have been raised with it. The most recent issue, and the reason that I put this on the agenda this evening under other business, was information provided to me and to at least one of the commissioners about the plans that were approved for this project. In my project file, I have two sets of plans, one clearly an original that was submitted with the application, and a second with a revised date that was referenced in the order of conditions. The assumption that I've been operating under is that the first set of plans as submitted was either a draft or retracted in some way, as, again, the second set of plans is substantially different, signed and stamped by a different person, and reference in the order of conditions. Those are the plans that I've been using in my review of the project. And again, this project, from a staff support stance, has received really more of my time than any other at the time being. And so I've tried, really with all the various concerns raised, to be out in the field quite often, to take a series of photos, to work with the different departments to make sure the appropriate reviews are undertaken. And so the most recent concern is that the plans as stamped and submitted are not sufficient for the level of detail required for a Conservation Commission filing.
Now, can I interrupt you for a second?
Of course.
As far as that goes, we had a public hearing on this project, and it was an agenda item, it was published, notification was sent to abutters, and if my memory serves me right, I don't think anyone was here to speak either for or against this project. I recall it being, having transpired several meetings, and I believe also that the engineer, I believe is Kenneth Lania, came in after several of the meetings. I don't believe he was the original engineer on this project. I don't know, I could be wrong on that, but
I can't speak directly to that. I know Ken is actually the project manager and works with a separate engineer and land surveyor. But my review of the minutes, as a part of my review of the entire project, indicated that there wasn't significant public input. But I also did find green cards in the file here that we have, some of which indicate that the concerned abutter was notified for the original notice of intent.
now, are the objections being raised now, or the concerns being raised now, are they more of the tenor that they should have been raised during the permitting process, during the hearing? Because if they're raising new issues now, other than just the work as being performed, which should fall under your supervision and our supervision, I'm kind of reluctant to expend the resources that I'm hearing are being expended to chase down potential issues, whether or not the plan was sufficient. That was all vetted out during the public hearing process, and I really don't want staff being utilized to go back and determine whether or not, the public hearing process, made reference to which plan or what. If it's mentioned in the order of conditions, that's the plan that's used. That's the plan that needs to be used. If someone has a problem with that, then they don't understand the process and they're not reading the information correctly. We have no obligation to educate them as to what the process is. If they see something going on, they're entitled to a copy of what's in the file. It's a public record. If they see something going on that's not in accordance with the order of conditions, then fine, let them raise a concern. But, if this is something that you're satisfied that the work is progressing in accordance with the order of conditions, then, I guess I'm sort of at a loss for why so much time and effort on your behalf is being spent, appeasing some objections to what should have been brought out during the original, hearing process.
Yep, I think there are a couple parts to the answer to that. One is that I try to take all objections seriously when I first receive them, whether or not I have any sense as to their merit up front. And that through a simple review, I try to, this is for all projects and all, work for the commission, and that I just sort of do a cursory review of the materials as I see them. And through that is really when I try and determine whether or not concerns or issues with projects as they're ongoing, as they have occurred in the past, warrant further use of my time. For this, it is true that several of these issues would best be brought up during the initial public hearing. And again, as I mentioned, this was fully re-reviewed by Mass DEP recently for their 401 water quality certification determination. That said, it's also one of the more complex projects that has been permitted by this commission in the last few years. Again, it involves extending a culvert, adding a manhole, filling a wetland, building retaining walls, replicating a wetland, several drainage areas. And so I'm trying to be sensitive to the complex nature of the project. And again, as I said before, there are many people who are aware of the use of resources in regards to this project, and it's like everything else, a careful balancing act that, if there are more concerns raised, by definition, through my simple review process, I will be spending more resources being my time on that project. But my fuller review or in-depth study of an issue is really related to, that review and discussions with some of the other supervisors and heads of the planning department here.
How are these concerns, because I have to be frank, I haven't seen anything come before me, or I suppose some of them are coming to you, some of them may have been sent directly to other members of the commission, but I haven't seen anything, concerns. I mean, I think we got a letter addressed to the commission last year regarding this project, but other than that, I haven't seen, anything that's been, bringing forth this project in its process. I mean, the applicant has been in, asking questions, but that's their right to make sure that they're proceeding, according to the order.
Again, the communication that I have has been with Mr. Leo Garno, who is acting on behalf of Frank Matthews, the neighboring property owner. Leo has, I've spoken with Leo by phone, we've communicated by email. This most recent update, again, was in response to letters that were sent, again, personally to at least one member of the commission and to at least 2 members of the city council.
Are those the type of information that should be coming before the full commission? I suppose I'm inviting the persons who are concerned to come in front of us and voice their concerns.
Yeah, and
otherwise, can it, in simple terms?
Yeah, to put it on a public agenda and discuss in this way is one form of airing those grievances publicly, whether or not the aggrieved party chooses to be here. I also looked into the issue of the nature of letters as sent to the commissioners in regards to project and city councilors, and it's well within any citizen's right to send information to any person they so choose. The difference with this project is simply that information then becomes a part of the file for that project, and so I have a copy of the letter in the file for the project.
Well, we meet every second Wednesday and fourth Wednesday of the month, and I'm sure Mr. Garno and Mr. Matthews know that, and they're more than welcome to attend and voice their concerns, if they choose to communicate by letter. But again, I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything regarding this that Mr. Matthews or Mr. Garno were raising a concern about this project, so.
Yeah, and I'll communicate with Leo again that if he has further concerns, he can come before the commission and we can discuss them further.
This is a public board, and I think when someone's raising a concern about a project in the city that has a public permit, that it should be brought before the public board that's charged with, oversight on that particular project, and not piecemeal as apparently it's going. That's what we're here for. If there's a valid concern, bring it forward. Let's listen to it and proceed. But if the objections are to the original notice of intent, well, there was an appeal period at one point in time that's come and gone to raise objections to that. There's a process that needs to be followed, and everyone's charged with following that process. Again, I really don't want to be spending too much time on something that, if someone missed out on an opportunity because they didn't do their due diligence, then that's, unfortunately, their problem. And it shouldn't then become the commission's. We have an ongoing responsibility of oversight on this project, which we are doing. But until we feel something needs to be done, changed, modified, or that the applicant and landowner need to be brought back into compliance with the order, then let the project proceed. All right? It's, and if there's concerns, let them be raised in front of the board. I don't like this backroom stuff and letters sent to certain people and not to others. Bring it out in the open and let's air it. All right, I don't want to spend any more time on that. I'm meeting with you next week regarding the fee schedule and structure, and then we'll hopefully get something so we can bring it in front of the entire board.
Yeah, the meeting that we organized today was predominantly to cover performance bonding. Again, something I know the commission has been interested in, and something that the planning board currently utilizes for a variety of projects. And so some of the other issues that I thought we started to iron out, but we can address those as needed. Again, I don't mean to be exclusionary. I'm a little concerned that, if we have more than, say, 1 or 2 members, I have to double check this per open meeting, it becomes actually a meeting that we have to post.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, I want to, the reason I mentioned it is I'd like input, obviously, even in the early stages. But at what point in time then does it become a public hearing and need to be advertised? And
I think it's well, again, I'll look into this now, because I don't mean to exclude other commission members who have an interest in this, but as we've discussed it in the planning department, it's simpler to at least debate some ideas, very general ideas, and again, bring before you at least some structure so that we can discuss it again and put it on the agenda under other business. It doesn't have to be an official public hearing, although if and when a regulation document is enacted, that will be an official vote with public notice in the newspaper as a notice of intent. But I think for the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, I provided a series of emails I'd received in reference to performance bonding for other commissions in other parts of the state. And the feedback that I thought I received was more along the lines of, start to get something in the process, and then we'll review it once it's a little more solidified. And so that's sort of the direction I was moving.
okay, thank you. Is there I have nothing else on the agenda, so.
Yeah, there are no minutes.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Good night.